Can you believe that it's been over 2 years since the initial reveal of Pokémon X and Y? Crazy, huh? Well, I've decided to make the adventures of Xavier and Yvonne the subject of today's episode of Why I Love This. Without further ado, I'm gonna tell you why I love Pokémon X and Y. Let's start off with the rather obvious. Pokémon X and Y were on the 3DS, a new system with much greater graphical capabilities than the DS. As such, the visuals needed to be upgraded to take full advantage of this new hardware, and boy did they go all out with this. These games look so good. Gone are the days of simple sprite art, and we now have these totally sweet 3D models. Battling is so much less boring now that the Pokemon are more than just sprite animations, and the detailed backgrounds and shifting camera angles help too. Another way they took advantage of this 3DS graphics was with the world. The region of Kalos was designed with the theme of beauty, culture, and benches, which really come to life with the 3DS graphics. There's also the 3D effect, but let's be real, who actually uses that? Of course, it's not just the visuals that have improved, as X and Y have also added some major gameplay updates. Out of these, the most well-known is obviously Acid Armor having 20 PP instead of 40. But screw that, I'm going to talk about Mega Evolution. At first, Mega Evolution doesn't seem like that big of a change. I mean, we already have alternate forms, and they've been giving new evolutions to old Pokemon since Generation 2. But Mega Evolution, I feel, is distinctly different from either of these concepts. While Evolution is more about helping weak Pokemon become stronger, Mega Evolution is more about taking already decent Pokemon and taking them to the next level. Overpowered? Maybe. But since you can only use one per battle, it isn't mandatory that you stuff your whole team with them. It's just so cool to see these old Pokemon that you've had for years be able to become stronger than ever in these new games. It also gives love to Pokemon like Kangaskhan and Mawile that fans generally seem to overlook before the Mega treatment. And since it looks like we'll be seeing more Mega Evolutions in the future, I can always hope for a Mega Typhlosion. Honestly, I can't think of a good way to transition into the next topic, so I'm just gonna say it. Customizable characters. This is just one of those features that everyone goes insane over, and for good reason too, as this is a feature that people have wanted for a long time. Tying in with the game's theme of beauty, you can now make your character as pretty as can be. There's also Pangoro hats, which is clearly the most genius idea that anyone has ever had. But seriously, this new feature makes every player unique, making things like the PSS a lot more interesting. You could just dress up like an average Pokemon trainer, you can wear a bunch of Pokemon-based clothing like the King t-shirt and Bamboo Sprig hat, or you could just be like me and wear all the really expensive clothes to flaunt how rich you are. I mean, there aren't as many options as, say, Animal Crossing, but still enough for everyone to have their own personal style. And on the subject of style, I love Team Flare. Out of all the villain teams, Team Flare has by far the most personality. Whether it's 80s song references or their extreme love for those sweet uniforms, the grunts of Team Flare never cease to entertain. Additionally, their leader is actually somewhat relatable. Well, as relatable as you can really get for someone trying to destroy all life on Earth. I would go as far as to call him the most relatable villain in the series, except Maxie, because those games have too much water. Somewhat related, there's also AZ, who's basically this game's equivalent to N. He's really mysterious, and his story is actually pretty damn sad, with him being a once glorious king, driven to insanity by the hardships of war. I'm not trying to spoil any major story elements, but just know that the relationship between AZ's story and Team Flare's is definitely an interesting one. They also have awesome uniforms, by the way. Of course, you could just be a normal person and not try to kill every Pokemon in existence. What if you only wanted to get rid of a few? Wonder Trade is this game's equivalent of Spin Trade or GTS negotiations, but nobody really cared about those features. Wonder Trade, on the other hand, is something that people go insane for, and I am one of those people. You see, Wonder Trade essentially works like this. You take a Pokemon you don't want, trade it away, and randomly get a Pokemon from someone else doing the same thing. As you'd expect, you'll get a lot of crap. However, I've gotten some really cool things in Wonder Trade, like 2 different shinies, one of which was completely battle ready. Since this function is perfect for breeders with a lot of excess Pokemon, you can get a lot of Pokemon with semi-good stats that can be used in your own Pokemon breeding endeavors. You can also get Pokemon you may need for the Pokédex, or that giant collection of every single Pokemon ever that you're gonna get going in Pokebank. It's just good that even your junk Pokemon have some sort of use to them. Alright, I very well could just end this here. 5 entries, just like the Black and White 2 episode. But instead, I want to cover one final feature. Something that gets a lot of undeserved hate, but I feel is one of the best changes made to Pokemon X and Y. Ladies and gentlemen, I love the Gen 6 EXP share. So, you probably remember when you first started playing Pokemon, right? Now I ask you this, how many of you started out by using a full team of 6 Pokemon? Seems that a lot of people, including myself, only used their starter. But the problem is, using only one Pokemon means that you're not getting the full experience of catching and raising a team. So, the EXP share tries to solve that by adding incentive to use multiple party members. It may be powerful, but not in the sense that it gives added EXP to one Pokemon. Instead, it gives bonus EXP to the rest of the party. Pretty soon, new players will want to use those other Pokemon because, well, they're decently leveled, and why let the experience go to waste? Pretty soon, those players will learn the ins and outs of raising a team, and soon be able to turn the thing off or raise an even larger team in subsequent playthroughs. Oh, and did I mention larger teams? 'Cause that's fun as hell. I think that can be said about the whole game, really.